Hello guys, we're going to do a review today of the Jagdpanther Ausführung G1 Early. So let's talk quickly about Jagdpanthers. There are three different kinds as far as I'm concerned. G1 Early, which is what this is, G1 Late, and then a G2. The G1 Earlies have this sort of, how do I explain, very rounded without the 4 bolts front bit, mantlet socket, if you will, and then a one-piece barrel. That's the easiest way to tell them apart. There's also a welded over driver slot here that G2 doesn't have. So the G2 would have the 2-part barrel, and the G2, their tools aren't even here. They're all in like the back. It's kind of about it. They're very, very similar. All G1s, though, should have Zimmerit. This doesn't have Zimmerit, which means I have to put it on. So, yes, I think there's a possibility that a late G1 could not have Zim, but there's like no confirmed pictures or something. So, here is the kit. It is 6458. This was the new tool for Jagdpanther. Anything before this is not as good. There was this kit. Then there was 6393, which was a G1 late. Then they re-released this one as 6494 with Zimmerit, but it had DS tracks, so little good, little bad. And then I think last year 6609 was the G2, which is a pretty sweet looking kit. So that's the lineage of these Jagdpanther kits. So here he is. On the side we're talking about a ventilator on the top of the hull. The careful calculations involved to get the correct angles here. They must have had a bad kit previously. There's the mantlet with finely curved surfaces recreated, so it says. Sponson floors with updated detail. I'm not sure what it used to be. Here's a big thing though. Magic tracks, yay. I really like that they do this in plastic. I have photo etch ones, they scare me. 2 different stowage boxes for the back. Newly tooled bump stops. Metal tow cables. Real standard issue stuff. Marking options are this guy, which is, I don't know how to describe this style of camo. I've never done it. It's just light splotches instead of like the big thicker ones, which I like, and then straight up Dunkelgelb. Excuse me. Only one set of numbers, some Balkenkreuz, and the absolute minimum PE and grills. So not huge. Dragon card, and this did still come with the dragon card. And all the sprues, by the way, if it's relevant to you, were individually wrapped, which they're not anymore. Upside down. Alright, so here's a tiny sprue of close defense weapon. Check out that glare, huh? Just the towing cable ends, the 3 different sizes, which you'll only need these larger ones for a Jagdpanther. Any big cats I use these on. Might not even be correct, but I do. Here's the grills. Another difference between the G1 and G2, and I think maybe even G1 early and G1 late, is this has a Panther A or D/A's rear, whereas the G2 has the back of a G. So you've got the larger vent here and the smaller one. That would not be that way on a G2. Metal tow cables, some periscopes, your tiny decal sheets, and your 7-part MG34. Very standard. Magic tracks. These are late with ice cleats. So, and they have hollow guide horns. These are pretty sweet. I don't feel like I need to replace them, so I really, really like those. Let's get cruising on this. I'm going to go instructions after plastic today, just because I feel like mixing it up. So this guy is one of many from the Panther G set of kits they released. These are sponsons, which are separate in these kits. I'm not even sure if these ones are used. I think there's 2 in here. These are the early and late armored covers for the exhausts. the ball for the MG. The barrel travel lock for a Panther, you won't be using that. Bump stops. This is the heater tower that goes in the back of late Panther stuff, so this wouldn't be used either. The mounting racks for tools on a Panther, including the periscope thing. This is for the barrel cleaning rod stuff. Little tube that goes in the side. There's the spare track thing. These tiny little holes. I've had to scratch build that before for a Tamiya kit, and it was a huge pain. So I really like that. And these guys here I've had to scratch build too. You can't see that, it just looks like my thumb. Right there. That's what the tow cable's hooked to on the back of my G2 Jagdpanther I made. And then the jack block's got pretty good texture. I don't know if that's reading or not. Very cool, very tiny stuff. Everything's done really, really well. There's 3 of these guys. These are rubberized, if you will, or rubber-tired Panther wheels, and torsion bars. So here's the bars with the swing arms attached already. There's the wheels. And then these are the tracks that need to be assembled and have the guide horns put on so that they fit around the sprockets. I've never really understood why that's a thing, but that's what you gotta do. And then so these have every other torsion bar, so it says steel wheel, because apparently they were actually different types of swing arm or torsion bars for that. Certain Panthers had just the rear wheel steel, and then one tank they found pictures of had all steel wheels. There's 2 of these. This is a 3-part idler, or 4-part? Yep. And then here's your U tow hooks. 2 different types of them. These are the vents for the back of the engine deck. There's usually like a vortex one and a straight one. Some more tiny, tiny little parts. These are the late exhausts, which you won't use on this guy. But then I have spare ones for other things. So like I've said before, I'm one of these people that's very okay with all the extra stuff. These aren't used on this kind of Jagdpanther either. These are closed louvers over the engine deck fans on a late idler, swing arm, bunch of tiny, tiny stuff. I don't know what it is necessarily. This I've seen in other Panther kits as well. Here you've got sprockets, 2-part. They look very nice though. The parts of the stowage bins for the back. So a couple of steel wheels in case you choose to do your Panther, which this isn't even that kit, but whatever, that way. These are the extenders for the, oops, sorry, bumped the camera. The extenders for the exhausts. I refuse to use these. So you take those other exhausts that I had, if you've never seen these, and then this thing in 2 parts gets added to the top of it, and it looks like that. I think, for my personal taste, it reminds me too much of these like 20-year-old guys riding around in a Dodge Neon with chrome tip exhaust on it, so I refuse to put it on a tank because I think it looks ridiculous. 2 types of covers for the final drives, one with a return roller, one without. These are just the extensions for the front of the hull. Some other tiny bits, everything looks really good. These are the mounts for the exhausts on the back, these 2 dudes right here. Now this is a specifically tooled Jagdpanther sprue, so that means the sponsons we saw before will be used, these will be used, not those. We've also already seen 2 sets of these, which we'll be using these instead. This one's a little bit broken off. And then these things as well. We'll use these instead of the ones that were already in there. Not even sure what these big things are. So here's more vents, so we've got a ton of these. These are probably earlier, as these obviously are. And these go up on the engine deck. Pretty simple. Everything looks good though. Let's go with upper hull. I don't like that they put them on this thing. I know they have the technology not to. So it annoys me because these are kind of a pain to clean up here because they're just on that angle. I find it to be sort of annoying. So there's the early Panther vents. It's smooth, tiny bit of texture. The welds look cool. I like how you can see where this thing is. It's supposed to be welded over. You can see it, but it's not really there. And on the Dragon kits, they have this as a separate piece, which is cool. Tamiya doesn't do that. It's nice. It's not warped. It's good. It's just I have to clean up sprue gates, and I don't like that. The lower hull is their standard Panther G lower hull. Yeah, it's gorgeous. There's where the torsion bars go. I have no complaints about their series of Panther G kits or their Jagdpanther kits. They're all pretty good. There's not much to talk about though. It's maybe that's a problem with doing so well like they had been. People stop being impressed by your quality and they're like, yep, that's good. So here we have a specific Jagdpanther sprue as well. Here's the roof. That stuff's popping up already. That looks really nice. So that's the roof, 2 hatches, a ventilator, a periscope, and a rotating thing goes there. There's the exhaust, the sort of Panther A style exhausts where you have 2 big pipes and these 2 little guys. I believe. No, those are the little guys. Those are the normal sized pipes. Silly me, with these like anti-grenade things. Right there. And then these 2 guys come off the sides of one of them. And it's a common mistake that people paint these rusted because they were intake pipes. Stowage boxes for the back of the fighting compartment. That's like a Jagdpanther only thing. Couple other tiny bits. These are like these are part of the hatch, the rear hatch. That's a radio mount, or antenna mount, excuse me. All very cool. I built the Tamiya version of a Jagdpanther, and the stuff all looks better than that. So, here we go. This would be the Jagdpanther specific gun sprue, so you've got a slide molded single piece barrel. I'm fine with that, I don't care about metal. Here you've got where the mantlet goes. It's a little textury. Not as much as I would have expected, honestly. This is nice. These are a little warped. I'm not sure if you can see that. See that? I'm not really sure what these are for. Because they have this, normally it has this little notch carved out of these and they go on the side, but I'm not really sure what this is for. If it is that, it has problems. Right there. There's the muzzle brake. Some more armored covers for the exhausts. More bump stops for the hull. I would assume part of the gun here. And another MG mount. This is kind of an earlier style one. Doesn't have like the stepping that goes here. Usually there'll be like 2 or 3 little layers. that's cool. Here we've got tiny, starting to be sort of run-of-the-mill tools, very good. Tool clamps molded on, bolt cutters, axe, all looks really sweet. I like the look of these clamps. I really don't like doing photo etch clamps, so I always like it when I get these. I like to have extra ones too, in case I don't have them in a new kit. Standard jack now, roughly 7 pieces usually. And then some more tools, inertial starter. That's probably a headlight mount, yep, right there. Fire extinguisher, towing clevises, everything looks fantastic, but we see that sprue all the time. This is a strange little sprue. It's just the gun breech, and it's the 2 halves right there, and then these 2 little bits that go on the top. I think it has something to do with recuperation. Not a gun expert, but you learn a lot getting into tanks that you normally would not have known. But a strange little sprue. This one I like. Wish I would have had it sooner. It's a Panther G late chin mantlet, and the stowage boxes for the rear. Obviously we don't need chin mantlet for a Panther because this is not a Panther, it's a Jagdpanther. Yeah, I could have used this on a Tamiya kit I just did a while ago, but it's never bad. Their mantlets are better, way more detail on them, so that is not a bad thing to have as a spare. The stowage boxes look okay. I've seen these in multi-part before on the Panther G with Zimmered I have, so these are a little bit less amazing looking than that, but they look fine. At least those lashes are there. Tamiya doesn't even bother doing that. This guy was quite clearly, I'm going to assume, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, there used to be a upper hull for a Panther right there. Or not. Something, it's a Jagdpanther sprue, but something used to be there. It's always weird to me when they do this. It's like when you get a car, and there's like a button that's not a button, and you're like, oh, that's where the heated seats would go. Something should have, or will, be there. Different hull, or some parts that they didn't want you to have. Anyway, so here's the hatches for the upper hull. No ejector pin marks, which Tamiya does have on the back of their hatches, so yay on that one. Another better texture. There's that stepping I was talking about, the MG mount, or ball. Now the fire extinguisher, the vents, now in this kit they don't have separate vents, and some of the Panthers I have, they have different types of vents that get glued in here, but apparently these only had the early type, so you get these. More ventilators for the top of the hull, the rear plate, another jack block with tolerable wood texture. I think the other one looks a little better. Some armored periscope covers. Pretty good though. Now it looks like this is the last guy, which is yet more exhaust covers. So that's 4 different sets of these. What I'm going to assume is a piece of the barrel, although this looks like the sleeve for the 2-piece barrel. Another muzzle brake, 'cause I saw one before. This looks like a slightly smaller one actually. So this looks like a KT muzzle brake. The other one kind of looked Tiger 1-ish. And then some more bump stops. So I'm going to assume these are specific to this kit, or they needed these. Whenever they throw in these tiny sprues, that's what I think. So, that's sprues. Here is instructions. So, as kind of I pointed out, you've got a lot unused on here. Sponsons, armored covers, the heater, tower. Apparently these ones I just pointed out are also not used. Most of this sprue is not used with these final drive covers, steel wheels, and then all these late engine deck components aren't used either. I keep bumping the camera, my apologies. So, wheels is standard. You glue 2 halves together here. It's a 4-piece idler, which is nice. And the sprockets. It's a little busy in by the swing arm torsion bar stuff, but that's only scary at first. This should be super uneventful. And I think so you put in the swing arms here, and then you put on these other ones that lock down over top of them, which is slightly different than the way it works in the Tiger 1 kits. And the sponsons get glued, I think. Top down? I can't tell. Where are they? Yeah, I think they get glued from the bottom up. So I don't think I need to point out that don't put your wheels on now, unless you're Magic. I leave them on sticks and paint them way later. Okay, so those things I didn't know what were, you glue the fans to them and then you glue that whole assembly to the engine, or to the lower hull. So there's the exhaust. It's the Panther A style exhaust. If you didn't know, Panther Ds have a very particular exhaust, Panther As have a very particular exhaust, and Panther Gs do. So they all have very, very different exhausts. This is the Panther A style. Ds just had the 2 pipes. As had the 2 pipes with the 2 intakes, and then Gs had the 2 different styles of just 2 pipes. Ones were similar to the Ds, but with covers, and then they had the cool anti-flame things. Stowage boxes go on there. This is all very simple, which I kind of like. So the mantlet thing goes in right away. That's surprising. Here's your 7-part MG. Yep, 7. So the engine cover, which has a lot of nice pieces to it, which I dig. This thing might be a slight issue. There's always a seam on these things. The barrel cleaning rod tube. Here's the only PE in the kit going on. This would be very, very easy, in my opinion. Yeah, so those pieces that were bent, I might have to cut those off right before I put this thing away today, do go here. Which I don't like that they're bent. Here's the tool configuration for the early Jagdpanthers and the early Panthers. Kind of a pain to paint, to be honest with you. Spare tracks going on. So picking the stowage box there, here's the rear hatch. It looks pretty good in here. We have the handles as separate pieces for this. If you ever get the Tamiya Jagdpanthers, these are molded on, so I had to shave those off and then find extra handles to glue on to make it look even remotely convincing. This assembly looks a little overdone. I must have missed where they were doing that. No, it's right here. The scissor periscope thing, that's accurate, but without an interior, this seems kind of, I don't know. I like it, but it seems a bit intense. Periscopes, all of this going on to the top of the hull. The barrel going together, standard 3-piece muzzle brake. So very limited breech assembly. It's explaining to you to assemble these tracks. It doesn't really point at the sprockets though, it just points at the tracks, which is interesting. Then there's your marking options, just to, I'm really starting to like these really, really plain ones, but I'm not really sure what I'll do with it. So, that is the Jagdpanther G1 Early. I will have to put Zimmerit on it, but it does look pretty sweet. There she is. That's all I got for today. Thanks guys, bye.